Hello, I'm Bright Lion, and I played a lot of Helldivers 2 when it first came out, close to 200 hours, but much like many of you, I kind of fell off of it once they started making all these weird changes. But I figured today was a good day to talk about it and just chat for a little while with you about the game. Helldivers 2 released to a positive critical and player reception back in February of 2024, but unfortunately, after a nice honeymoon period, a few stumbles in the development cycle cooled player interest. However, I believe that this game is still strong and it will see a resurgence in players as new updates and events come to the game. We're going to briefly talk about some of the pitfalls of the game's first year, and then I'm going to talk for a little bit about my opinion on the future of the game. The first upset was an after-the-fact requirement to link a Sony account with the player's Steam account. While a common strategy for many games, doing it after the game saw a huge success with over 400k concurrent players on Steam was seen as an objectively shady move. Personally, I already had a Sony account, so it wasn't really a problem for me, but for many players, creating a secondary account only seems to increase the potential of their data being leaked, especially with Sony's previous record, and generally it's an annoying and unnecessary second step just to play a game that you already own. This came around the same time that Sony decided to restrict access to the game for various countries after players in those countries already bought the game and played for a while. This was absolutely a predatory move that resulted in a major drop in active players and general outrage towards the game. Unfortunately, a lot of this outrage was directed at the developers, while they ultimately had no control over this decision and it came directly from Sony. The next big upset came a while later, after several weapons and stratagems were nerfed, causing many players' favorite weapons to be much weaker than they originally were. While I understand the need for balancing in a PvP game, what motivation is there for a developer to nerf certain weapons over others in a PvE experience? This was a move that I really disagreed with, and I stopped playing as much as I had been previously due to that series of nerfs over the course of 2024 to many of my personal favorite weapons and stratagems. Two that come to mind are the railgun and the flamethrower, both incredibly effective weapons that were rendered basically useless due to the nerfs. However, in a pretty rare move, the developers took player feedback to heart after a CEO swap, and this resulted in the great Un-Nerfing update. Many weapons like the railgun, the devastator, the flamethrower, the expendable anti-tank, and many more were boosted to be closer to their original strength, and this move was celebrated by the larger player base. Unfortunately, much of the damage had already been done, but the game is seeing a far lower but still healthy amount of daily players. One of the things that really brought me in when the game first came out was the method of storytelling. While the lore and storytelling of the game is just as strong as it always has been, the mass exodus of players resulted in the method of storytelling being less effective, as the game uses a major order system in which the player base as a whole is tasked with a mission to various ends. It could be a new stratagem, controlling the enemy faction's advances, or just something for fun. After this major exodus, it took some time for them to adjust the requirements of the major orders to match the new player counts, but they did eventually figure it out and players began completing these missions again. With the great Un-Nerfing update, the game did see a major rise in active players, and while some did leave again, many players are active once more. While I was never a power player for this game, I did learn the mechanics, weapons, enemy types, and strategies for success to allow me to complete missions on the hardest difficulties. To compensate for stronger weapons and call-ins, the developers also added a new hardest difficulty they named Super Helldive. These missions are still challenging and require a level of teamwork and game knowledge to complete, but offer even higher rewards than the Helldive difficulty. Allowing players the freedom to use weapons, equipment, and stratagems as they see fit while remaining competitive in the harder difficulties only provides more replayability to more seasoned players. I believe that while the player count may not ever reach its peak again, the current amount of players is a healthy amount for a fun and engaging experience for new and old players alike. As I was getting ready to upload this video, the conclusion of the 60-day plan was implemented today, of course. This plan includes an insane number of changes, and I'm just going to briefly go over some of the big ones. So for armor changes, heavy armor will now reduce damage by a further 5%, while light armor has had its damage increase reduced by 8%. There has also been an addition of specific armor penetration levels between 2 and 5+, depending on the weapon's penetration capability. For some of the weapons, they've also had some adjustments made to make them more effective. The Tenderizer, a personal favorite of mine, has been given a variable RPM mode between 600 and 850 RPM. The Senator Revolver has been given an additional level of armor piercing, making it more effective against the bots, and damage has also been increased by 25. The Airburst Launcher's reload speed has been reduced to 5 seconds from 7 seconds. The Stalwart has been given an increased ergonomic stat from 25 to 40. Both machine guns' ammo capacity has been increased by 25 rounds, with the machine gun being given an additional starting magazine for 2 total spares. Drone backpacks have been given a toggle option so that you can conserve ammo, and the Guard Dog drone has been buffed in its armor penetration and magazine capacity with a slight decrease in its damage. The Machine Gun Sentry, Gatling Sentry, Rocket Sentry, and Autocannon Sentry have all been given a reduced cooldown at the cost of a reduced lifespan. The Machine Gun and Gatling Sentry have also been granted additional ammo capacity as well. For gameplay and enemy changes, the Bile Titan's leg health pool has been reduced to 200 from 300. The Nursing Spewer's leg health has also been reduced to 200 from 300, and it's kind of crazy that these enemies have the same leg HP. Hunters were given a cooldown for their pounce ability. This is insane. Automatons have also been adjusted in a few interesting ways. The Devastator's head armor was reduced to 1 from 2, which will make it easier to land precision shots. I think the Senator is going to become the best weapon for dealing with these enemies. The Hulk Bruiser's cannon has been sabotaged by the man, the myth, the legend, John Helldiver. Automaton targeting was also nerfed, and projectiles damage were reduced for both normal and heavy projectiles. Tank front armor was reduced to 5 from 6, making the expendable anti-tank launcher much more effective from the front, but the back is still going to be the preferable option for destruction. Further, we've got a few bug fixes, with the important ones being that enemies are no longer able to track the player through the walls, not enough enemies spawning in the Eradicate missions, and patrol spawning will now be more quote-unquote logical to not punish the players for map exploration after they've completed the objectives, but we're going to have to see how that one plays out. They also mentioned that they've tackled some of the various crashing issues in the game, but I personally haven't had a lot of trouble with this lately. I'm going to link the patch notes below, so feel free to take a look at it yourself to see the other changes that were made. I'd like to hear what you think about it. Looking forward to the future of Helldivers 2, there is a bright patch ahead with the implementation of new events, goals, and enemy types as the awaited third faction still looms on the horizon. In my opinion, if you enjoyed the game when it first released, you should come back and try it again, as I still have fun with it every time I play. I might make more videos on this topic, but I wanted to offer a more optimistic perspective on this game, as I still find it as enjoyable and challenging as I did on release. I do stream this game sometimes on my Twitch, and if you ever want to come hang out or do some dives together, I'd be happy to have the company. If you enjoyed this chat and want to see more, feel free to like the video to let me know and subscribe for more videos like this. I'm Bright Lion, and I'm heading back into the office for more research.